So this year, there was this little obscure indie production that kind of flew under everyone's radar. It was called The Barbie Movie. Have you heard of it? Probably not, right? Okay, but in all seriousness, thanks to one Barbie movie, we have entered a period I like to call the Kinaissance. And that is to say, a period of unprecedented love for Ken. And not just for viewers, for Mattel too. Because even though this was the Barbie movie, if you follow the special doll releases that Mattel has been putting out for the movie, they've all been Ken. And it's funny because I really do think this is one of the few times, really since Ken has been introduced, that Mattel has hit the sweet spot with his marketing and figured out a way to make people care about Ken. Because let's be honest, before now, no one really did, right? He was always, always secondary to Barbie. He was barely even his own character. He was more like an accessory, if anything. And Mattel has historically struggled with finding an audience for Ken because they always run into something I like to call the Ken problem, which is exactly what today's video is about. Just a look back kind of at the evolution of Ken and the different ways Mattel has attempted to rectify this so-called Ken problem. So what is the Ken problem exactly? Well, I'm so glad you asked. That's why you're my favorite viewer. So the Ken problem is basically the fact that Ken exists in a weird spot, being a male character in a toy line that is primarily marketed to and focused on young girls. And due to that, he has to walk this tightrope of not being so masculine, in a manner of speaking, that he basically becomes an action figure and loses all appeal to the main audience, but also not so feminine, that his alleged romance with Barbie becomes implausible. And I use these terms, masculine and feminine, purely as marketing terms referring to, the public perception. Because the public perception of Ken, outside of people who are buying dolls, has never really been very positive either. It's always been a joke that he's too feminine, that he's secretly gay even, that he's emasculated for being in a relationship with a woman who is infinitely more wealthy and capable than he is. To quote this Esquire article titled "The Hollow Man, What Do You Mean, Just Ken?" In popular culture, Ken has become a byword for pathetic, self-denying masculinity, the archetype of a submissive, passive, henpecked milksop who exists only to hold his girlfriend's handbag and be gently ridiculed. So on top of already dealing with relatively low sales compared to Barbie, Mattel now has to deal with this unfavorable public opinion too, because Ken being seen as a joke isn't going to help their sales, or will it? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Yes, we're going to start at the beginning and discuss each distinct era of Ken, how Mattel was marketing him and attempting to solve the Ken problem, and also why they might have failed. And while everyone else was sleeping on Ken, I've been sleeping on my Helix mattress. This video is sponsored by Helix Sleep. And since they've got great Cyber Week deals going on right now, it's actually the perfect time to upgrade your mattress. Helix makes premium mattresses and bedding, customized to fit your needs and conveniently shipped to your door. Everybody's different, and Helix knows that. So they made a sleep quiz that matches your unique body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. And based on that, Helix matched me to their Midnight Lux model, which is great if you're like me and often sleep on your side and prefer a more medium type firmness. I've been a Helix customer for several years now. I'm a longtime fan of their Midnight mattress, but I've had the Lux model specifically for a few months and I love it. Being someone who works from home, I don't always have a great sleeping pattern and I'm often at a desk just hunched over like a little gremlin, which, surprise, is not super great for your back. But using the Midnight Lux, I never wake up with any back pain or feeling stiff. And I really do feel well rested even when my sleep schedule is like totally whack. And my fiance loves it too. It accommodates both our sleeping needs really well. It also comes very highly endorsed by Ivy too. And since she sleeps, I don't know, 18 hours a day, I assume it works really well for her. Also, unlike other brands, Helix mattresses do not contain fiberglass. In fact, Helix owns its own manufacturing facility, which is entirely free from products containing fiberglass. The best part, though, is that Helix will deliver the mattress right to your door, with free shipping too if you're in the US. The mattress comes rolled up in a box, it's really easy to set up yourself, and if you're nervous to buy a mattress you haven't tried before, don't worry. Helix has a 100-night sleep trial, so you get more than 3 months to make sure you really love it before committing. Plus, Helix mattresses have a 10-year warranty, and they even offer financing options and flexible payment plans, so a great night's sleep is never far away. Helix's best sale of the year is running now. It's the perfect time to upgrade your sleep with 25% off a Helix mattress, plus a free sleep bundle. Click the link below or go to helixsleep.com/darlingdolls to find out more about this limited time offer. Thanks again to Helix, and let's get back into it. So, Kenneth Sean Carson has a history that is really almost as long as Barbie's. He was introduced in 1961, 2 years after her, and like how Barbie was named after Ruth Handler's daughter, Barbara Handler, Ken was named after Ruth's other child, her son, Kenneth Handler. There's conflicting sources about why exactly Mattel decided to add Ken into the Barbie universe. Some of them even said that Elliot and Ruth Handler didn't want to make a male doll, but that there was a consumer demand for one. And even some controversy surrounding the fact that Barbie was this successful, glamorous model, but didn't have a boyfriend. Like, just the sheer horror of a woman being accomplished and wealthy but still single. Not even a woman either, a 16-year-old girl, because that's how Barbie was marketed at the time. But there was also the fact that to more conservative parents, Mattel put forward Barbie as a sort of learning device. She could teach your daughter how to dress, how to groom herself properly. And in the 50s and early 60s, there was a really important goal in mind for all of that: to find a husband. So, of course, they needed an actual male doll present in order to complete that idea. So, on some level, I don't think that Mattel was entirely reluctant to make Ken, but I don't really know. I wasn't there. But whatever the case, Mattel did introduce Ken immediately as Barbie's beau, her boyfriend, going steady, as they would have said back then. And the exact status of their love life will change from era to era, but we'll get to that.
Then it happened. She met Ken, and somehow she knew that she and Ken would be going together.
Also, like Barbie, the first ever Ken doll came dressed in a swimsuit, which, fun fact, at one point it was actually designed to resemble Barbie's original black and white swimsuit, but they did change it to just be red afterwards. He had flocked hair, but later Mattel would opt to give him hair that was molded on. It's difficult to track exactly how popular Ken was around this time. From what I can tell, even though it was considered like essential almost to give Barbie a male companion, it was still an uphill battle convincing consumers to buy Ken. Or if they did buy Ken, it was even more difficult to convince them to buy Ken's outfits, which was really the bulk of Barbie's sale model at the time. The only real marketing tool they had was making him correlate to Barbie, to match Barbie, because just a Ken set on its own was an extremely tough sell. It's also difficult because anytime I try to look up a source for Ken in the 60s and really onwards from there, literally, these writers want to talk about one thing, one singular thing, and I want to address this briefly because it's literally insane how fixated these people are on this, like disturbingly so. So I'm going to give a quote from Forever Barbie, the unauthorized biography of a real doll by M.G. Lord that has stuck with me, and not in a good way. The cruelest comment on his genital deficiency, however, came in 1964 with Cheerful Chef, a backyard barbecue costume that included a long fork skewering a pink plastic weenie. The seeming deliberateness of these symbols makes it hard to interpret Ken's sad, solitary sausage as innocent. Likewise, the message on his apron, Come and get it. Seems a bitter taunt about the genital he will never possess. So, there's that. Anyways, moving on from that, obviously, here are the origins of the Ken problem, and Mattel would make their first attempt at fixing it by giving Ken a full update in 1969, following Barbie's transition into the mod era just a few years earlier. So obviously, in the mod era, things are going to be updated for the new time period. But aside from that, Mattel also gave Ken a much more muscular physique and a new face mold that obviously made him appear much more mature. And a lot of Ken's fashions, too, I think, definitely reflect the more manly man side of 70s fashion. So it was a lot of suits and robes and tailored jackets and such, a lot of oranges and tans and muted colors. There were a few Kens that matched with Barbie's. For the most part, I think there was a deliberate effort to separate him from Barbie's fashion style and make him appear more masculine, more like this 70s dreamboat cover star type. And did this fix the Ken problem? I mean, no, not really. The mod era was kind of an experimental period for Mattel, where they were just throwing stuff and seeing what stuck. They even started to move away from the business model of relying on outfits and instead focusing more on individual dolls. And we got a lot of very iconic dolls from it, but for Ken, it was really kind of a forgettable time for him. We did get mod hair Ken in 1973, which I think is a very important Ken doll. Not only was he the first Ken to have actual rooted hair, but he also came with facial hair appliques you could stick on him, which that and the outfit, again, I think very much point to Mattel's ideal of Ken in this era. Very mature and very manly in a... There's no delicate way to say this, but in an almost attractive way, right? But then in 1977, Barbie enters the Superstar era. And in 1978, Superstar Ken comes along with a new face mold to herald in this new period. And the Superstar era, moving into the 80s, is when we really start to see the evolution of Ken as specifically Barbie's arm candy. And there's like two distinct categories of Ken in this era. First, there's the sports Kens, where Mattel is sort of holding on to the last dredges of Ken being this very masculine ideal from the last decade. So dolls like Super Sport Ken, All-Stars Ken, who could actually flex, Sport and Shave Ken, which shaving will be a very common theme moving on, and all these Kens running around with these rippling muscles and tiny little shorts, doing man things. And then there's category 2, which are Kens dressed in sparkling, glittery tuxedos, specifically sold to match whatever beautiful gown Barbie is wearing at the time. Crystal Ken, Dream Date Ken, Dream Glow Ken, Jewel Secrets Ken, Perfume Giving Ken, 1988 Superstar Ken, etc. Which definitely kind of puts Ken in a box, right? It's really around this time that we see from Mattel a complete and total disinterest in developing Ken as his own sort of character. And I mean, they probably thought, what's the point, right? Young girls are just not connecting with him. Why bother making him anything other than, like I said earlier, an accessory for Barbie? So in the late 80s, you really start to see Barbie and Ken coordinate. So 1988's Cool Times Ken, Animal Lovin' Ken, leading into the early 90s with Totally Hair Ken in 1992, Secret Hearts Ken, Island Fund Ken, Sun Sensation Ken, Winter Sports Ken, all had, relatively quote-unquote masculine outfits, but they were just as colorful and just as campy as their respective Barbies, and made specifically to match with her. Lest we forget the icon, 1993's Earring Magic Ken, which, thanks to the columnist Dan Savage, really opened up the floodgates to Ken being seen as a very flamboyant figure and a gay icon too, especially to communities of queer men who, were seeing their fashion styles and their beauty standards being reflected here, which obviously I think was totally unintentional on Mattel's part. According to Mattel spokesperson Lisa McKendall, Ken's portrayal around this time was a result of a survey where Mattel actually toyed with the idea of just dropping Ken entirely. They were so frustrated with him and his lack of sales that they sat down with a bunch of young girls and asked them how to move forward. 2 years ago, we did a survey. We asked girls if Barbie should get a new boyfriend or stick with Ken. They wanted Barbie to stay with Ken, but wanted Ken to look a little cooler. But unfortunately, Ken connected more with adult gay men than he did with young girls, which I don't think Mattel was, panicking about. Earring Magic Ken was really not as nearly controversial as people think, but it also very much was not the audience they were looking for, right? So they went back to the drawing board a little bit. And starting around 1995, leading into 1996, we do see Mattel try and give Ken his own sort of persona again. And they specifically characterize him as a kind of like a big brother figure, I want to say. I think they were specifically trying to appeal to young girls by making him look more like the men they'd see in their lives, like their dads, uncles, brothers, etc. So now you see dolls like Cool Shaven Ken or Inline Skating Ken, Totally Cool Ken, all these Kens that are just like regular dudes. Also, Big Brother Ken, of course, and all the sets that included his little brother Tommy, who has the craziest bob I've ever seen on a kid. And this would continue in the late 90s and early 2000s until, I guess, Mattel just got tired of him again, because aside from specifically the movie releases, or ones where Ken was playing a character like the Scooby-Doo dolls, there just weren't a lot of Kens. So it's safe to say this approach also very much did not work. And by 2004, Mattel had enough. They wanted Ken gone. They wanted him out. So they announced on Valentine's Day, mind you, that Barbie and Ken had officially broken up. They put out an official press release on this, and according to Barbie's publicist, I never comment on my clients' personal lives, but I will tell you that Barbie and Ken will always remain the best of friends. She looks forward to spending more time at her Malibu beach house with close friends and family and concentrating on her budding film career. So at this time, we ask that you respect her privacy. And to add some more spice into this, and I actually think this was so fun, 7-year-old me was living for this drama, let me tell you. But Mattel introduced a romantic rival for Ken, the Australian surfer boy named Blaine. They put it to an online vote too. Should Barbie date Ken or Blaine or Steven or Diego or stay single? But you can tell from the whole advertising campaign that Blaine was always going to be Mattel's option. I don't know if the votes were actually counted or not, but it was announced that yes, Blaine won, and Blaine would be Barbie's new boyfriend. So, did Mattel do it? Did Mattel fix the Ken problem by just getting rid of Ken entirely? Well, no, not at all, because Blaine was really only allotted to the Cali Girl line of Barbie dolls and also stopped being produced very shortly after in 2006. Also, important to note, Barbie sales were not doing so hot at this time, thanks to Bratz and other cultural factors. Mattel was really doing their best to try and get their next big thing. So in 2006, they unveiled the new Ken, who was designed in part by celebrity stylist Philip Block. To quote a CNN article about his announcement, Block said the company was going for a worldly European thing and definitely wanted to be looking hot. This was characterized as Ken reinventing himself to win Barbie back over. But it didn't work. They were still officially broken up, and although Ken would continue to appear in beach lines and Fashion Fever lines and later the Fashionistas ones, he wasn't really considered a core Barbie character. His fashions definitely reflected, I think, what was specifically popular with teenage boys around the time. They give me big Disney Channel vibes, sort of. So again, I think they wanted young girls to see him as this attractive movie star type guy. in 2010, Ken would get another new look yet again, and Mattel launched yet another Ken-centric advertising campaign to get Barbie and Ken back together again. There was another online poll, but again, I think it was kind of pre-decided, but still a good way to gauge if the public would still be interested in Ken, right? And it all culminated in this really cute set where Barbie and Ken were updated, modernized versions of their debut dolls. Mattel still wouldn't do anything like remarkably different with him, though. He still only popped up in the Fashionistas line from time to time. Though in 2012, I think we do get kind of a major turning point for Ken, thanks to Life in the Dream House, which was a web series that imagined Barbie and her friends as being part of a sort of a reality show. It is extremely highly recommended. Please go check it out if you haven't before. It's one of my favorite Barbie media things, just period, like ever. But Ken obviously appeared as a central character in it, and the show really leaned into this self-aware humor that Ken basically lived to be Barbie's boyfriend, that he was devoted to her and appreciated her and was the best boyfriend he could be in every way. And they did it in a way that didn't come off as demeaning on Ken's part, right? It was genuinely very cute and very wholesome, and I think really endeared a lot of people to Ken's character. And I've said so many times how much I wish Mattel would have just leaned into the Life in the Dream House versions of the characters, how I think that would have been the best case scenario for them, but as we know now, they didn't. And in 2014, very famously chose to rebrand Barbie entirely, with less of a focus on specific characters and more of a focus on diversity in the dolls. So now Ken is not really a character or a doll so much as he is an official catch-all term for any Barbie doll that is male, and that comes with both positives and negatives, I think. Ken as a character is still present in the Barbie movies and media, but is seen more as a friend of Barbie than he is a romantic interest, and is, frankly, just so extremely very boring. But on the doll side of things, we're seeing Kens who reflect a bunch of different fashion styles, presentations. We got Kens with makeup now, even. Because I think Mattel is a lot more open to the idea now of Barbie being seen as more of a gender-neutral toy than exclusively a girl's one. So they're not super focused on specifically what's going to appeal to young girls. Rather, now young boys too have the opportunity to buy a doll that maybe looks like them in some way or someone in their lives. And I have many negative critiques and thoughts on the Barbie rebranding, but I will always say that more diversity and more inclusion are not part of them. That's always a good thing. But now we're in 2023, a post-Barbie movie world, and Ken has become somewhat of a cultural icon, thanks in no small part to Ryan Gosling's performance. The public is just fell in love with Ken all over again. And if you've watched the Barbie movie, then you'll see the common pattern here, right? What sort of fixes this Ken problem? And the answer is almost totally just self-awareness and kind of making fun of the fact that Ken is a secondary character in Barbie's life, while also building him up as his own character too, giving him charm and charisma, acknowledging that Barbie is primary, first and foremost, but not demeaning Ken in the process. Now, I did actually think that the Barbie movie focused a little too much on Ken, perhaps, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a little annoying that we're seeing so few Barbies from the Barbie movie, but I do see why people have become so endeared with Ken all over again. Will this fix the Ken problem on the sales side of things? I don't know, that remains to be seen. But I am interested in seeing what this new direction could spell for Ken and the Barbie brand as a whole, if at all. Because it kind of seems like Mattel just wants to keep the Barbie movie and the Barbie brand itself kind of separate entities, but we'll see. But that does bring us here to the end of this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to go down there in the comments and tell me your thoughts and opinions on Ken. What, in your opinion, would fix the Ken problem? What makes a good, engaging Ken doll to you? Do you like what the Barbie movie did with Ken? Do you hate it? Tell me all about it. And when you're done with that, just be sure to like and subscribe for any future fashion doll content. Thank you.